Okie dokie. Almost on time here. Let's get this other one set up. Okay. Yes, one viewer on YouTube. Fantastic. 12. Well, that's a quick jump. Let's see. Susan, Tracy, Shelly, PJ, and Bonnie. Penny, you're always on top of it. You're fat. Let me authorize your comment. Thank you. Strange. I don't know why it's like that. Anyway. So just give me a second here to get set up. Okay. Thank you for tuning Margarita from Get Tanning. What's up? Rosa Strasberg and Tanya from Newville. Harrison is in the house. Lauren, what's going on, top fan? Okay. Vicky from Northampton. Ashley, guten Tag. Was gibt's Neues heute Abend? That's great. Robert Gordy. And we are on Fighting for Freedom page. We can talk freely. Thank you for. I see a lot of people who've donated some. Obviously, once or twice a month. Sometimes more. You'll see fundraising newsletters go out. A lot of people ask me, "Is this you?" It's like, yeah, it's legit. Still trying to get a feel for the level of support. Thank you. So many of you donated. I see a lot of your names on there, so thank you. Do appreciate it. PJ Adams County has sent you the bill information on the heartbeat legislation, and you'll be able to click on a PDF or Word document to read the legal language. Let's see what we got here. Greg, what's up? Robin Lynn. Jeff from Bethlehem. Thank you. Hattie Jean's asking if we're going to be in Clarion in May. Yes. And we will. Tracy, what did you take away? I watch it, message disappear. We're going to try to get a list of dates that I'm going to be out and about. Thank you, Pat. I'm glad you enjoyed the newsletters. Deadline for voter comments on the election is 30 April. We did post a link on my Senate page. Sorry, allergies. Yep. Shelley, many public appearances coming up next couple weeks. Great. Okay. Hopefully you guys caught my Newsmax. Hopefully it was coherent. Anyway, it's all good. We tried. Let's talk about medical freedom. Good interview. Bob and Heather's show. We do a good job with that. There we go. That's bright. Especially without any hair. Get that extra glare. Annie Girls, that's her name, filled out her comments on the voting integrity. Thank you, Pat. Says I was great on Newsmax. That says something about Bob. I was bracing myself for an interesting question from him. His question was legit. Thank you, Mary, top fan on this Fighting for Freedom page on people on Fighting for Freedom. Yes, please share. That's how we overcome the shadow banning. And I'm glad you enjoyed the Newsmax interview. I'm glad to hear. Margie says, glad you're coming to Allegheny County on May 18th. That's fantastic. Hope to finally meet you. Look forward to meeting you guys as well. Thank you. Thank you, Alice and Vicky. Appreciate it. Jeannie from Tioga County. I need to get up there. Megan likes the newsletters. Okay, let's get through this here. So we could talk freely here, and I could advocate and I can do whatever I want on this page. This is right now it's a private page, fighting for freedom. YouTube, of course, it's multi-purpose, so we're good. So 4 questions on the constitutional amendment coming up on May 18th. Yeah, I don't know that I'll be going anywhere on May 18th. That's election day. Usually on those days we stick around. I'll have to check the calendar. Sorry. Guess I could do it here. Might disrupt YouTube though. But okay. 4 questions. 1 and 2, I ask you to support. I ask you to vote yes on the first and second question. Those 2 limit the governor's emergency powers. So yes and 1 and 2. 3 and 4, I'm dubious about. And if my position is wrong or not tenable, or you disagree with it, please message me or email me and explain why I should reconsider my position on 3 and 4. 1 and 2, I'm totally in with, and because it limits the governor's powers, and Governor Wolf has done a tremendously terrible job this past year. Let's walk down memory lane. Essential, non-essential. Every job's essential, and it's nice, I guess, for all these people with a steady income, just casting cares to the wind, and issuing edicts and proclamations declaring jobs not essential. Ridiculous, utter nonsense. The way it should, and this was not. A lot of people, are saying things in hindsight that aren't true. You might remember last year, we didn't know how bad COVID was going to be. I don't know anyone who didn't take it seriously, and so the science deniers on the left, they disagree with us when we think scientifically and logically, and we'll call it science deniers. So just, they're obviously the ones who are detached from reality. But we didn't know how bad it was going to be, and I watched the governor come down and shut down businesses. He shut down, none of the businesses should have been shut down, but he should have come out. Here's what CDC says. Here what OSHA says, and I took both of those together. They already had an emergency plan for a contagion, and I took those together, and I had legislation basically that would inform the public, business owners, private sector, government sector, say here's the precautions you need to take. Now go implement them as best as you can and make it happen. And I am convinced that the people of the state, the citizens, would have done a darn better job responding in this unusual, this ambiguous, uncertain environment last year. And then the 14 days of flattening the curve, went to 400 days. And that's always the danger when people in positions of power get a taste of authority. I listened to Congressman Jordan's questioning of Fauci today, and Fauci refused to give any answer on a benchmark. When will you return our freedoms? They're not his to take away. He's a bureaucrat. He is not an elected. He's not a leader. He's not an elected official. He's basically a staff officer. And I served a good, fair chunk of my career. Sorry, I guess it looks a little goofy. As a staff officer, and I would as a military intelligence officer, serving as an S2 at a battalion and brigade level, and as a G2 at an army level, Corps and Army level. There's a NATO headquarters, so depending on its on how we'd be utilized. But anyway, I'm just trying to be clear. I'm not misrepresenting myself. I was a G2 at a major NATO military headquarters. That's an intelligence officer. And anyway, as a staff officer, I would provide the best advice I could in my lane, in my area of expertise, to the commander on the enemy. Here's the enemy's posture. Here's their capabilities. Here's what I think they can do. Here's their courses of action. We should prepare for. And the commander would hear my voice, advice and then make a decision. So should it have been with CDC and Fauci and other. They should not, or Levine, they should not, never have been empowered to make life-changing decisions. Many of the decisions made in Pennsylvania were by Levine. It seemed like the governor delegated many of his powers over to Levine, and so Levine would come out with these guidance directives approved and sanctioned by the governor, under the 1955 Disease Control Act, which was designed for venereal disease. I think it was gonorrhea. And obviously, contact tracing for that is greatly simplified compared to COVID, where it's airborne. Anyway, it should have always been in your hands. So now we see in retrospect, now a year on, that these bureaucrats and governors and secretaries of health in these states that have had a heavy hand, that do not believe these freedoms are God-given, are very reluctant to surrender those. And we saw that in the form of Fauci today, who could not give any benchmarks because they constantly, people like him and Governor Wolf, constantly move the goalposts. 14 days to flatten the curve. We flattened that curve. And then it was something else. And it was hospitalizations are too high. This is too high. This is too high. Positive tests are too high. And, what point? Okay, so on Newsmax, we talked about medical freedom, the vaccine, and obviously my belief that a vaccine passport and mandating vaccines, even in the private sector, is a gross infringement on your freedoms and rights as Americans and should not be acceptable. And the governor of a state has ample powers, as we've seen, to restrict and limit even private companies from that overreach. We see how important having a governor that reflects our values, that believes in our freedoms as you do. We see how important it is to have county commissioners that reflect, and school board members who listen to the parents. I mean, that's been so evident anyway for months, because look at the tax increases, for spending at the schools. But anyway, every election has consequences. And so, thank you for. I think I think many of you now are past the point where you're just so disheartened and disillusioned by what happened in November, and the lack of an audit, and the lack of transparency, the lack of investigative journalism by the media, baseless claims. I read that today again in an article. It's like, oh, just stop it. Do your jobs. How do you know it's baseless? Show me an investigation that you did to prove that. The claims and allegations, statements, testimonies, affidavits from hundreds, if not thousands, of our citizens are baseless. They haven't. So stop carrying water for the Democrat Party. Do your jobs. And then you hit pieces. People are growing weary of them. Especially the incessant nonsense. On Senator Mastriano. Just do your jobs. Look to your own house. As Jesus would say, let him without sin cast the first stone. Be very careful about rendering judgments on people, especially people who are generally innocent. Okay, so 1 and 2, back to the constitutional questions. You always should have had the power. This questions 1 and 2 puts the power closer to your hands, really more in your hands. It limits the governor's emergency powers from 90 days to 3 weeks, and he cannot just come out with another, sign another paper, another 90 days or another 3 weeks, because the whole thing is pointless if we don't disempower the governor by self-issuing edicts. If you want to end the mask mandates, if you want to end the shutdown, if you want to, end these closures, and disempower the governor, vote yes on 1 and 2. If you vote no on 1 and 2, it means you're happy with how things have gone the past year. And it is so nice to be able to talk as I normally do on this Fighting for Freedom page. If you guys can once again share on Fighting for Freedom, we're not even at 500. That's terrible. Absolutely terrible. And so we are being shadow banned. I don't think they like my some of my memes that I put up today. The one with Herman Munster and his family in Maryland. One of these people didn't take the vaccine. Anyway. Okay. Yeah, Shelly, what's up, cousin? I still can't believe they did not investigate the election fraud and that Trump is not our president. Nobody did. And I challenged them at Gettysburg. I'm really sick and tired of it. Okay. Something to remind people of herd immunity. So if you had the virus, you have antibodies, and some antibodies stay in your entire life. Think about some of the vaccines you had. How many chicken pox vaccinations do you get? It stays in your system. Some don't. We don't know how long the antibodies are, but it's far longer than the naysayers and CDC, and the fear mongering. Okay. I'm not going to get too much into the weeds on vaccinations and herd immunity. The bottom line, it should be your choice. I can't believe that I even have to say that in Pennsylvania, in America. I can't believe we gotten to the point where the one side that is fanatically pro-abortion and killing a baby in somebody's womb, saying "my body, my choice." Well, that's not your body. That's somebody else. That's a different person. That's somebody else's body. That's a distinct individual from conception with a separate DNA. That's science. That's fact. But when it really is your body, they want to deny you the right to say no, or yes. And on our side, if somebody wants it, we don't. There's no derision, and if somebody doesn't want it, there should be no judgment and derision as well. And none of this anti-vaxxer nonsense. That these bully tactics of the left are sickening to me, and that they are never called out by the media because only 7% of the media identifies as Republican. It's shocking. Washington Post reported that in 2014. I have an op-ed on it. I'm sitting on. I'll only pump it out in a week or two. All right. So, questions 1 and 2, yes. Question 3, introduced by one of the Democrat senators, and basically, supposedly it strengthens the prohibition on. I'm trying to think of the right language because I don't want to misrepresent it. Basically, it strengthens protections based off of race and ethnicity. Now, I'm reading through the amendment. I have it. I haven't gone through it entirely. So, how did this happen? First off, I'm a no on this at this point here. And if somebody can tell me why and how the Pennsylvania Constitution today does not protect us already in that regard, and then I'll be happy to change my vote. Since I've seen us outfoxed by the Democrats on simple things like the voting reform that's some of the puritanical folks in our ranks here that want to give Wolf and Democrats a free pass, but cast these terrible judgments of self-righteousness against Republicans. This utter ridiculous nonsense. And don't listen to them talking about it. It was Wolf and the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court is complicit because they refused to hear the Texas case. And I've gone over so many times. And the last time I was asked, I got a little agitated. It's like, really? We're Republicans. We think. We just don't listen to some punk kid with talking points with good words out there, blah blah blah, and not based off of fact, hasn't accomplished anything in life, and you're gonna believe him? Come on. Got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you if that's the case, right? So consider the source. So number 3, I'm a no on, and number 4, I'm a no on as well. Look, I don't know why fire and EMS, I am told, already gets loans. I don't understand why there needs to be an amendment that expands the loan program. If somebody in fire and EMS can talk to me, if you're a yes on that, and educate me and inform me on why I'm wrong on that. Number 3 and 4. If you have a strong case to make, in a polite conversation over text or email, walk me through it. And if I'm convinced, I'll share it on my platform here. We'll spread the word. So 4 things you're voting on May 18th. Everybody can vote, not just Republicans and Democrats. Independents can vote as well. Not on candidates, but on the questions. I'm asking for, on the 4, Number 1, yes. Number 2, yes. Number 3 and 4, I'm not so sure of. I'm just wondering if there's something in that language. There seems to be something that can be twisted to disenfranchise Pennsylvanians a bit on number 3, but I just can't put my finger on it. And if anybody has any insight as well, let me know. So that's that. I see a good comment here on YouTube from the chanter. Number 3 would prevent reparations efforts like in Oakland, Illinois. Okay. Not sure, but I'll look at it with that in mind. Not really sure, because I'm thinking about, how it was introduced and who introduced it, and I'm just not sure. I just get this sense there's something more to it. I just can't put my finger on it yet. And Mimi, Eileen agrees with me that number 3 can be easily twisted. I'm not discounting Mr. Cantor or Mrs. Cantor your comment there, and just saying at this point here, I'm not sold on it. Linda says, trust your gut feeling. Dawn is a no on 3. And Jan doesn't trust it either. So Sharon asked who wrote 3 and 4. Democrat Senator outside of Philly wrote number 3, and number 4, I don't know. Sandra also says go with your gut instinct. Thomas Burrows is asking about the Convention of States, and why isn't Pennsylvania joining that? Well, if you're one of the leaders, Thomas, your spokesmen out there need to stay focused on it and not get distracted with attacking Republicans. Obviously, I know the Republican senator quite well who introduced that bill, and if some of the folks, speaking on behalf of the Convention of States aren't focused and instead running around and rendering judgments on Republican senators, you're going to shoot it in the foot. And I've watched this happen before. I was last February, before the shutdown, the last public event we had on the steps inside of the Capitol talking about property tax. And, lined up were a group of senators and reps, leading the charge, fighting for property tax, getting rid of it, rolling it back. And some of the speakers attacked us. And I listened to one of the reps after his speech and the stuff that we heard. He'd say, you don't have my vote anymore. So I don't get it why Convention of States stay focused on your message, and why Convention of States need to happen. If you have speakers running around and venting their spleen on topics unrelated to that, and attacking Republican senators, it's self-defeating. This is not a strategy. So Thomas, if you know anyone who's leading the charge in that, because there's a fair number of us out there that support that and have supported in the past, but you'll notice there's not a lot of co-sponsors right now, and I wonder it's because some of the folks out there are undercutting the entire position argument. It's just utter nonsense. Anyway, I'll stop there. Jed, the gas tax, the governor and his team, they want to increase the gas tax. One of the papers out in Pittsburgh is obviously working on a hit piece of me, and they're going to go down the traditional avenue since I haven't capitulated. So now they're going to start calling me names. And because I didn't vote for the confirmation of some people by the Wolf administration. But our Secretary of Transportation, I was in a hearing with her, and she says we need to sign up for the Transportation Climate Initiative together with her counterpart from DEP. And we're like, what does that result in? An 11 cent per gallon gas increase. That'll make us number 1 in the nation again. We're not number 1 anymore. California passed us on the state gas tax. So what about the gas tax? The governor wants to increase it, and his team is down with that. And there's several other initiatives they have to try to increase that. But anyway, it is ridiculous. I agree, Linda. Anyway, what else do we have here? Guess we've gone kind of long. Stacy says, "Can you abstain from voting on 3 or 4?" Yeah, you don't. You can vote on one. You could vote on none. I mean, it's up to you. Kim, yep, 11 more cents. This is ridiculous. Yep, that is a way to be a version of Jamie of the Green New Deal, and I agree absolutely. Michael's asking about suing the newspaper for libel. Actually, I do have that in mind on that one particular ultra left, borderline communist outlet that perpetuated all sorts of lies about me. And one thing at a time. There is a tall bar because I am a public official and my protections are diminished a bit, but there have been lawsuits by the Trump administration and even by some of our leadership in the Senate against some of the papers, both in New York and in Pennsylvania, and have won. So if I do, I'll have to frame it in a way where they have to, cover court costs if we win or what have you. But anyway, that's that. I guess I should probably go, huh? But it was nice talking to you guys. Hopefully that was helpful. This is just my perspective. I hope. Jesse says, "Don't sweat the smear campaigns." There's been a lot of them. Don wants to know how we starting. Don wants to know how we take back education. Get on a school board. Have a majority number of folks who agree with your thinking and thoughts on American Pennsylvania history, and take the schools back. You'll be far more likely to succeed at the local level than you will be at the state level, especially at this point. So what else do we have here? That's a good question. And lots of questions coming in. Wow. Harrison is asking if number 4 increases the possible monies for volunteer fire companies. I'm absolutely not sure. If anybody has an answer, because I know loans are available already. I'm not sure if more are needed or if this doesn't seem like it. Tracy's talking about one of the papers. Michelle, that's funny, tough man. 11 cents. I'll be flintstoning my car. That's hilarious. Vince says recently attacked by the Guardian newspaper, so we are prime time. Wow, that's a big deal. But yeah, you don't have to vote on any or just a few of the amendments. Kelly, what's up? Wow, she and her husband have had a good stand there on her businesses on masks and vaccines, leading the way. Karen was wondering if they're going to raise tax on toilet paper. Tongue in cheek, that's funny. Ashley says the captain of the boat I was on in front of Pennsylvania Turnpike tolls are laughing stock. It's sad. And reputedly by one of the papers in Harrisburg, it's the most expensive highway or turnpike in the world. Wow. And so obviously it reroutes traffic to the secondary roads and to the state highways and state network roads, which is not designed to bear that kind of traffic or the loads that are being hauled across. And it just does more damage than good. And our infrastructure already in the state is not so good. The roads and bridges and what have you. Our transportation network is not good. And this high gas tax was to take care of that, which was passed when I was still in the Army. It had nothing to do with that. Anyway, I'll buy a bicycle. I might arrive a week later, but I'll skip the gas tax. And you'll be in good shape too. Great exercise. Oh well, first 3 years in Germany, we did without a car back in the '80s. And so anyway, did my bike a lot when I worked in Nuremberg, which was about, I don't know, 10 kilometers, 6 miles away. It was quite a haul. I used to follow the canal, and also a lot of bad weather in the '80s in Nuremberg, and so also had a train. It was a pass, an annual pass that paid a good chunk of money for the train, streetcar, and bus. So you could take a certain combination of those to get to work. Uh, yep, good times, but did bike a lot. But once I moved out to Foyt Army Airfield on the other side of Nuremberg, that option was off the table. It would take over an hour to get there by public transportation. It was terrible. And you're there, around 6 in the morning for PT, and it's a long day. Anyway, it's a long time ago. Back when I was young and I actually had hair. So, it's a long time ago if I had hair. Uh, okay, I guess that's it. Can't think of anything else. But thank you for those who are donating to the Doug Mastriano, Fighting for Freedom Fund. And we're seeing how strong the commitment is out there. And, as I mentioned a few weeks back in church, I get a lot of this, and I hope you run for governor. I will vote for you. And, my response is, thank you. It's going to take more than that, though. It's going to take maybe you volunteer and maybe donate money if you can as well. And I hate asking for money donations. It's just, my dad raised me, don't ask for people for money. Can't do it without your help. Not independently wealthy. And the guy walked away. And I'm like, well, I guess I probably won't even get his vote now. So if the support is not as broad, extensive, or deep as we hope, I mean, obviously that'll be evidenced by folks not being willing to help out, and waiting until I announce is not a good answer either. I saw some people, I'll donate when when he announces. So we're not in the exploratory phase yet. I guess at some point we need to be. It's these ridiculous things created, in politics. But we're seeing how deep the support is, and we're still praying about it. And if we get in, we'll need to start off with enough resources. We'll need to have a reasonable amount of resources at our disposal. And if we don't announce, then that money can be used to help like-minded Republicans running for seats, around the state. So it's a win-win. If we find a candidate, another fighter, there's not a lot out there. Do we find somebody that we believe is going to make a difference and serve you and not themselves? I mean, then obviously those resources, those funds can be used to help them, him or her, get across the line. So Jed says run. I will see. In John chapter 10, I need to bring a Bible down here. I will do that. I believe it's in John chapter 10. Jesus says, who among you, before you build a tower, that doesn't count the cost, right? Because, how embarrassing it'll be if you start building that tower and you can't finish it because you run out of resources. So you have to balance, obviously, stepping out in faith, but also counting the costs. And so do we have the level of support behind us or not? And so that's why you're seeing, quite a bit of fundraising appeals. Just explaining it. If you don't have the resources, don't give. And some people, hey, I'm on Social Security. It's like, you keep your money for food. So, you know what I mean? As Uncle Joe would say, that this phone here is shot. Look at it. Isn't that fantastic? Wow. The screen is splitting. I don't even know what's going on there. Anyway, it's a mess. So let's look up John 10 real quick as I lose the audience here quickly. That's what happens when you start talking about money, right? So, I hope it's John chapter 10. Wow. That's not good. Okay. So anyway. So, and And so there's if we do, go for governor and the decision hasn't made, and we're not playing games or anything here. We're seriously, as you guys who know us, Rebby and I are seriously praying about it and seeking, a leading from God on this. Hopefully that makes sense to most people out there. Um, and then if we get the green light, obviously, okay, it's actually Luke chapter 14, verse 28. Man, I was off. I'm glad I looked it up. So Luke chapter 14, verse 28 through 30, Jesus says, "For which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish, lest after he has laid the foundation is not able to finish, all who see it begin will mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish." So that there's and I'm not going anywhere near the high side where the professional consultants say, tens of millions of dollars for a primary. That might be the case in a traditional line. We don't need that. Because I do believe we do have statewide support in all 67 counties. I know we have that. So if we do go, we're going to need at least, we're going to need a good resource to start off with. And then even more importantly, we'll need volunteers across the state in every county, knocking on doors, distributing flyers, distributing yard signs, fundraising, hosting events, and, try to bring us in for, large events to speak and then meet with the people. Paulette says, and Paulette, you've been very generous. So you've given, more than many. Give even $10 if you can afford it. So, on my social media platforms, we reach, usually we're not being suppressed, combined between 1 and 10 million, sometimes up to 15 million, but it's been some times since we've had that reach. So if everyone gave $10, of a million people, we'd be good to go. So it's not that big of a deal. Most of our donations are small. Most are from, people. Most of the folks can't afford it. It has to come from individuals or a PAC. So we can't take it from an organization or from a business. It has to come from a person because we have to. There's laws that we have to abide by, and we do, which is a good thing. And so we have to report by individuals. So it can't come from a business, but it can come from a registered political action committee PAC, which is kind of a hassle, as one of our friends tried to put together out there. But anyway. So thanks, just so you know, this is not an appeal. This is just letting you know where we are. So we're still praying, and at the same time, we're seeing, how strong and enduring the support is. Yeah, it's been a bit disappointing and discouraging at times, and some of you out there, like Liz, know, a little discouraged because, there'll be little meetings at people's houses, and ridiculous things that will be said, and you're like, so the support really after. Most of us here, we've been in this together for a year or about, for a long time together. And we've gone through Where is Wolf? We've gone to the Reopen rallies. We've done our own, freedom rallies. We've been there in all this legislation, stood by Donald Trump, one of the few left still with Donald Trump. That's why he calls. That's why, we communicate. And then still to have people questioning my tenacity. I'm trying to think of a proper, I don't want to misrepresent, but being so easily swayed by good words and fair speeches by people who've done nothing except get rich off the state. So I'm like, it is discouraging because I don't know what else you guys can do. I didn't have to do this. Did this because I believe in my country, and my life has been about serving. I've served this country on active duty for almost my entire adult life. I took the oath for the Army in 1983, I believe, maybe 1984. Entered on a ROTC scholarship program, and then I served over 30 years in active duty, serving 12 years out of the country, and there was 12 moves included in that across the country and overseas. And of course, anyway, you guys know where I'm going. And then was about to ride off into the sunset like so many colonels do, and did have a sweet offer, making a lot more than a junior senator gets in the state. It's not about the money. And as many of you heard several times, it's worth saying for anyone new out there, I just could not. I was having a hard time riding off in the sunset, knowing that I was handing over the country and the state worse off than how I got it from my dad and his generation. My dad was a Navy man, a career Navy man. So turned down the easy life. I won't say like Trump, because his life was, far more different than mine. But like you, just grew up in a middle class family. My dad was a high school dropout, and the Navy turned him around. A judge, he was drag racing, and with his car, I got a picture of his hot rod, in fact, in the 50s. And the judge is like, you know what? Either you go into the jail or the Navy. My dad went to the Navy. And he's like, Doug, the Navy changed my life. It turned it around. He would say I was a punk. And the Navy gave me discipline, and a focus. I'm going to put it in my own words. It gave him a vision for his life. And then, he went on to work for Air Products as a manager. Not bad for a, high school dropout, right? In America, the America that we love, and that was possible. And so turned down that sweet job. So doing strategy initially would have been focused in Eastern and Northern Europe, an area that I do have expertise in. And travel overseas and doing something that I'm trained and I love to do, but serving you has been a higher honor. And but it is disheartening when you have all that behind you, and I turned down the sweet retirement plan as well. And I think on one hand, a lot of folks have run for office in Pennsylvania saying if they wouldn't, and promising their people that if they win, they decline the retirement plan. And I could probably put on one hand the number I know that actually stood with that pledge. Most of them, they get there and they see how sweet that plan is, off of your taxpayer dollars, off of the backs of the working people of the state. They see how sweet that retirement package is, and they may already have a retirement plan. This retirement plan exceeds 30 years of service in the Army as a colonel. It blows it away. And so it is very tempting, and they don't make it easy to decline it, at least not in my case. I win the election. I'm a man of my word. I go into the administrator's office. I'm not taking that. Oh, wait. 3 times, pushback. Felt like, it's kind of like in the garden. Here you go. You sure? It looks nice. You'll never be able to change your mind. I'm like, give me that stupid paper. Sign it, took a picture of it. It's on my phone. I need to pull it up. But, I don't take the retirement plan. I don't take the state car. I haven't done the per diem or travel. I have said, if I'm sent across the state that I might do it. But as I would in the business, but I haven't yet. And I kind of think that I probably won't now. And you'll notice that the press, they love to come down on me, but you'll notice in the report they did on the per diem, 2 of the Democrat reps with 24,000 each last year during COVID, when there was hardly any gatherings, when they can zoom in. $24,000 each on extra pay for gas mileage and a flat rate per diem, around $200 a night. But they could be staying with a friend, not even in a hotel, but no receipts necessary. My approach would be a business plan that if I go somewhere that I submit receipts and just get compensated for what I'm due, just like in the Army or in the business, right? So anyway, don't take that. Trying to serve you, have been out there, have proven myself as a leader, and hopefully somebody you could trust and who's been a consistent leader and a confidant of the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And, to look myself in the mirror and know that I've done the right thing, and still have people out there whose loyalty is about this deep, right? And I don't know, Mastriano, this one vote he did, they hate me because of something. I was like, really? That is fantastic. So go ahead and vote for a young person who still lives in mom's basement, right? And who has no leadership. I've led men and women from across the state, from across the nation, and even from around the world. You'll notice on my profile picture on my private page, that's a shot, and I led that group. And it doesn't include everybody. At one point, we had about 80 or so people from 18 different countries working for me. I think 19 if I include Afghanistan. There's an Afghani included in that group. that was a portion. I had people still on shift that couldn't come out for that group shot in Afghanistan. You notice all the different style uniforms, right? So 18 different nations. That was tough, but that's we could do that in Afghanistan. We could do Pennsylvania. And anyway, thanks for your prayers. Thanks for your indulgence. I see a lot of you hung on there. I do appreciate your encouragement. Cindy, that's fantastic. Justin, it just needed to know. Dave, it's good to see you. Hopefully see you soon. Yeah, Denise stepping on toes. Definitely. Eva, I appreciate that. Eva Gonzalez, you've definitely proven yourself trustworthy and a man of integrity. You're a godly leader. Thank you. That's the nicest thing you say. Cheryl, who's been a loyalty is a big deal for me. It's really hard to find people who are loyal, and so that was one of the number one attributes I'd look for in the men and women in the military. If I had a choice, to have them with me, and so it's a rare find these days. Donald Trump's seeing how rare it is. You know how much he was loved and adored until he ran for president by the left. And Cheryl knows, that'd be horrific. Someone needs to be able to run their own life before they can think about running the state. Yep. Thank you. And while they be put in the same category as Donald Trump, that's quite a thing. You and Trump are two of kind. We're very different, obviously, but almost we've done many phone calls privately with him, and almost every call Rebby and I get off. And we feel encouraged by him. And usually I'm the one trying to think of ways to bless and encourage him. I do pass on your love for him and that we miss him. I'll probably be hearing from him in another week or so. I gave him another update. Well, Pat, so she goes, you were incorruptible. That is what we need. So I am still a sinful man. I have issues I struggle with. And so, but pray for me that I stay strong. Peggy, my dad was in the Navy, Korean War vet, 23 years of service. That generation did a good job holding the line during the Cold War, and now it's our turn, and our job is not done. And so, whether or not you serve the military is irrelevant. That's my point of reference. That's where I came from. But we are citizens together in this state and this nation, and so, as Franklin said, and I often quote, "We don't hang together; we'll hang separately." So. You find somebody that you believe in and stand with him or her. Volunteer time, donate if you can. Work with them, roll up your sleeves, and it's hard work, but hopefully in the end it'll be worth it. And my positions have been all clear to everybody here. I stand for life and the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, Second Amendment, etc. We have some good legislation coming out. So. Penny, that's fantastic. Main Road in Du Bois, extremely large sign. I love it. You guys are fantastic. Okay. Love you guys. Have a great night. And let's stick together. Becky, thank you. Sorry we couldn't make your party in Gettysburg. Michelle, you were awesome. I pray for your safety every day. Thank you. And I first found you when you're doing a live mentioning my name, about a year ago, asking people, hey, guys, watch Doug Mastriano. Thank you. Love you guys. Take care.